Without the luxury of resting on any waves, the ocean men had to rely on raw fitness to endure the course.
When there is a wave on, it gives you an opportunity when you catch a wave, come back in, have a rest, get a breather, and when the conditions are like this, you don't. You're paddling in and out all the way.
I'm nothing to blame. I'm not fit enough. Yeah, more training.
21-year-old Phil Clayton came out on top when he capitalized on one of the better waves of the day to take out the win over fellow young gun 20-year-old Joshua Blair. Post-race, Phil had just one word to describe his Oceanman victory.
Sensational!
The women's race saw first-round leader Carla Gilbert near or in the front almost the whole race, but it was the surf skills of two other competitors that won the day. Simone Cotter's breathtaking wave on the last swim leg brought her through the field and up to the front. Both she and Reen Corbett fought it out on the final moments for a memorable photo finish.
I still didn't know if I won till I sat down, but even if I hadn't won, I know I gave it 100%, so I was happy with the way I went.
Stacey Gartrell once again put herself in a position to win, but she came in third, and in fourth was a disappointed Carla Gilbert.
It's very hard. Going out in a couple of the board legs, I got hit by the waves and it really just knocked me around, you know, because it was really hard to come back after that.
In the team competition, Team Australia came in #1, followed by Team New Zealand, then Team South Africa. So with two exciting races down, let's take a look at what's ahead. Today, for race number 3, we've come to Mooloolaba, Australia, where surf lifesaving is not just a sport, but a lifestyle. Two very interesting stories have emerged as we review the individual competition. 3 women occupy the #1 position based on their combined point scores. Carla Gilbert.
I really want to win this race and I'm really going to go out there and I'm going to do my best. I'm going to really perform to my best ability, you know, not worry about anybody else except how I'm going to do my race.
Simone Cotter.
I'm very nervous, a lot of excitement too, but just try to control all that. It's a good feeling.
And Stacey Gartrell.
I think it'll be very competitive. Kim Tennell's going to be very tough. She's an endurance athlete and, you know, she goes well in the run. Carla Gilbert is always going to be tough. And Reen, of course, with board paddling. But I think one to probably watch out for at the moment is Simone Cotter.
Each will be looking to establish themselves as the person to beat in race number 3. For the men, it's turned into a battle of the young versus the old, fitness versus experience. In Piha, it was surf knowledge that propelled 28-year-old Hendy and 33-year-old Thompson into first and second position.
It comes down to the endurance and the experience of the older person versus the power and the tenacity of the young person, and they're just so gutsy, you know. These young kids, they come up and they don't want to let anyone beat them and they're just flat out, and it's going to be great to see these young guys come up, but we've still got a few lessons to teach them yet.
In Bali, it was the young lions just out of their teens, Clayton and Blair, that stole gold and silver.
Every young kid's dream is to beat Trevor Hendy, and a lot of younger guys are going to come through and take it off real soon. I'm so excited about this. I've always dreamt about racing these guys, and now that there is a World Series, to win the World Series, hopefully I can do that.
Has the time come for the changing of the guard? Who will the conditions favor today? We'll find out soon enough. So why wait any longer? Let's see which athlete will be #1 after today. Let's hit the surf. Today, competitors in Uncle Toby's Oceanman Queensland will race the M-shaped course using 4 disciplines: run, board, kayak, and swim. Competitors begin with the run leg, followed by a kayak leg around the red marker buoys. Back on the beach, they will grab their boards and paddle out around the white marker buoys. Competitors then complete the swim leg around the yellow buoys, then a full circuit of the run course before completing the whole circuit again. The only difference between the men's and women's race is the women eliminate the kayak leg. Here's a lineup of the women competing in today's race. Athletes race as individuals, and there will also be an international team competition. They're off for round 3 of the World Oceanman Series. Joining me for commentary is former Australian Ironman champion Grant Kenny.
Thanks, Craig, and what a pace it is here. Look at that up front. Kim Tennell and Anna Ballara already going out really hard.
We saw Anna use this race strategy in round 2 in Bali. She took off on that run and then as well on the first board leg. We'll have to see if she does that again today.
Yeah, fast run's going to be important for them too, because in these flat conditions they'll tend to bunch up on the board, and you want to try and establish a lead early just so you got a bit of room to paddle.
Well, that positioning is everything as we see Anna Ballara come through the inside waves. We'll see whether she can keep that lead and maintain the lead over her rivals throughout this leg.
Yeah, very important, particularly as they approach the turning cans. You can see her looking ahead there now. She wants to make sure she's got a good, solid, straight line to the can. Kim Turnell, New Zealand, right next to her, and Karen Hardy on the blue board on the left of your screen there. Reen Corbett on the black board. Look at her push and shove. That's Kirsty Holmes. She's nearly knocked her off.
It's absolutely imperative that they get to that first buoy first if they want to be out in that front pack. We saw Lisa Lower on the blue board on the left-hand side of your screen come through and get on Reen's wash. She actually has the inside turn along the buoy.
Yeah, big advantage. That was great work by her. Look at the rest of them now, all bunched up. Very hard to get your arms in, even just to get a stroke.
We saw one of the competitors almost fall off the board. Here's a great shot of Kim Turnell, Team New Zealand, and Anna Ballara on the red board.
The leaders back around that can and heading back towards the shore now. They'll start to settle down the pace a little bit now, Craig, I would think, and just try and settle into a rhythm.
You're right, and there's a great shot of Reen Corbett, and to her left, Lisa Lower. They'll now start looking behind there. Another shot of the field. It just shows how everyone's lining up right behind. It's a great way to wash ride and to conserve energy.
And I could see Carla Gilbert of Team Australia, Foster's Team Australia, back in about 6th position. A small wave building up now. Watch them lift it.
That's Kirsty Holmes, it looked like, as well as Reen Corbett, Lisa Lower, and we'll have to see whether or not there was a 4th competitor on that wave. There was. That looks to be Lily Miller. So these 4 women have made a gap on the rest of the field. On a race like today, these waves are all important.
Yeah, they're not big, and usually most people tend to think that it's the big surf that makes the biggest difference, but in actual fact, on smaller days like this is when you can really open up a useful lead.
And there's Stacey Gertrell just coming by our camera. She's been in front in a number of these races, but waves have always brought her back to the rest of the field. We'll have to see whether today is her day.
Yeah, of course, she's a really strong swimmer, so she'll just try and get through this board leg and then really put all her energies into that swim.
Kirsty Holmes there in the middle of your screen is now leading the second half of this first board leg. Lisa Lower up on her knees on the blue board, just coming into your screen from the right-hand side. She's not really known for her board paddling, but she's doing a great job today.
She'd be really happy with this position that she's in right now. And Kirsty Holmes, too, she was able to pull up onto that wave, and you can see what a difference it's made.
There's a shot of Team Australia's Carla Gilbert, tied for the series #1 position going into today. She had hopes for a great race, but she's been a little ill, so we'll have to see if she is able to come through.
Yeah, she's been a little bit hot and cold so far this season, and you notice some of the girls are lying down and some are kneeling up, and what's generally they're more powerful in the kneeling position, although particularly with the women, some of them prefer to lie down. Kirsty Holmes prefers to kneel up, and certainly so does Reen Corbett. But usually the legs are going to get really tired in that position, Craig, and you need to give them a break.
Well, you talked about that knee paddling style, but we just saw Lily Miller right behind the leaders paddling prone. There's a shot of Denby Holmes on her knees, but our leaders are coming into the surf line now. Kirsty Holmes taking a look over her shoulder. Will she catch that wave? But there's Lily Miller again, sticking right on their heels. A great board paddle from her.
Yeah, it's interesting. She's one of the ones that chooses to lie down, and where it can be really critical is when you do finally try and get onto a wave. It doesn't give you quite the power, and it makes it a lot easier to nosedive.
Well, as they come through the arch, that's Reen Corbett in first, Lisa Lower in second, Kirsty Holmes in third, and Lily Miller in fourth. They were the 4 that got that small wave to begin with. Now there's Stacey Gertrell. We're about to enter the swim leg. She's a Commonwealth Games gold medalist. She's been up in front both of the previous rounds. She's tied for the series lead. She'll need to move up, Grant, to solidify her position.
Certainly, and I saw Kim Turnell of Foster's Team New Zealand there. She's really made a big change. That last part of the board and the transition onto the run, she's done really well.
There's Carla Gilbert, Foster's Team Australia, coming through. She won the first race in Piha. Karen Hardy coming through the arch, and there's Stacey Boley from Team South Africa, and behind her, Kelly Baglett from Team USA.
Yeah, they're back, and actually not that far back a little way in positions, but pretty close to the leaders in distance as we see them now. Lisa Lower it is who's just duck diving out there, and they'll usually do that until they're up to about chest deep of water. Then they put their head down and start swimming.
There's a great shot from our underwater camera of Reen Corbett, our series #2 competitor. And as we take a look from above the water, it's Lisa Lower out in front. Next to her is Reen trying to tuck into that side wash.
Kirsty Holmes has been doing quite a lot of swimming. Her husband is a swim coach, in fact, and coaches quite a number of these girls. And she'll be very happy with being up there at the moment in third position.
Take a look at our leader, Lisa Lower's swim stroke. Very smooth, very high elbows. It's almost like they're swimming in a pool with very little waves and very little chop. They can do this pool stroke with ease.
They're pretty much the only difference here today is that they don't have a black line to follow. So you'll notice as they're swimming in, they'll lift their head up and look back towards the beach. What they're doing is looking for their finish point there. They're looking for the turning marker so that they do swim a straight line back.
Well, coming in, that's Reen Corbett, number 2. She's picked a different line than Lisa Lower. They're swimming stroke for stroke. We'll see, and here's a wave. We'll see who can get on this. It looks as though one or two of the competitors, that's Lisa Lower, who's popped her head up.
Yeah, the interesting thing is she kept her head down to get on the wave. It was Reen Corbett with her who nearly came over her shoulder, but she lifted her head up, and that meant she didn't get the wave. So good surfing there by Lisa Lower.
Lisa Lower in first, Reen Corbett in second, Kirsty Holmes in third. They'll now try to extend their lead in the second half of this swim leg as they go around the banners. There's Stacey Cottrell, Simone Cotter, Kim Tennell from Foster's Team New Zealand, and there's Foster's Team Australia, Carla Gilbert, coming out of the water.
So, yeah, really nothing much into it, and we'll have to watch them as they get back into the water as we see Carla Gilbert run around the corner there. They're going to, now's the chance to try and make a bit of a break. It's actually easy going if you're sitting on the heels of somebody, so for the leaders, it's hard to get away. Lisa Hurring, Team Great Britain.
You're right, Grant. It's very hard to make that break, but once you've got a attack pack, let's say, of 2 or 3 people, they can work together to try to distance themselves from everyone else.
That's what makes it hard if you've got somebody chasing like Stacey Gartrell. She's by far the strongest swimmer in the field, and she'll drag the other girls up with her, which is something that we'll have to watch out, or the girls in front are going to have to watch out for.
That's right. We just saw Lily Miller come around the buoy, and as we see a shot here of Lisa Lower as she heads in towards shore as around that Uncle Toby's buoy, she's got about 5 to 10 meters over Reen Corbett.
Yes, and this will be her chance to make that break as the other 3 or 4 girls now come around there, and they'll have to work together to try and close up the gap.
We've talked about Stacey Cottrell's swimming, but there's a shot of our leader, Lisa Lower. She's had some great swimming, but there is Stacey Cottrell. We'll see if she's moved enough through the field. She's way to the right of your screen, chosen a different line, and she's up now and dolphining.
Yeah, this is what they'll do. They'll get up there, and now you see them lift the knees as they make this transition. And once again, the transition is very important. The girls that are going to take it easy through this phase of the race are really going to give up a lot of ground that I call free territory, because you don't have to work that hard. You just have to click into running mode quickly to really extend what lead you've got.
Well, Simone Cotter there, number 4. Kirsty Holmes moving up along Lily Miller. There's a shot of Denby Holmes, number 5. Both sisters compete on the World Oceanman Series. You'll see the runners now sticking behind each other and trying to actually step in each other's footsteps.
Yeah, and the reason they do that is because the sand gets slightly compacted with the footstep of the girl in front, and it's kind of easier to run behind somebody like that. So, of course, you're conserving energy. Very important in a race like this.
But to the left of the pack, running in clean sand, is Team New Zealand's Kim Tennell, by far one of the strongest runners in the field. There's Team Japan's Fukiko Sato, a great swimmer. She's not very far behind.
Just about to hit the beach, but just about to go back in the water. That's Carla Gilbert, Team Australia, still chasing that lead pack as they make their way around this run leg and get ready to go back in the water. There's Karen Hardy, one of the pioneers of Iron Woman racing in Australia. Denby Holmes there, as well as Stacey Bole from Team South Africa. So they're right up there. This is still a very close race. Very exciting stuff.
Grant, we talked about Kim Tennell wanting clean sand to run in, and we just saw her on the top of our screen. We'll see if we can go back to it. There she is again. She's running by all these other ocean women competitors. We talked about how strong she was in the run. This is where she has to make her move.
Yes, and what a classic illustration of how much easier and quicker it is. All 3 of those girls now that saw her go past, ran across, got in her footsteps, and have now overtaken Lisa Lower, who was the race leader.
Well, now the question becomes for Kim Tennell as we see her grab her paddleboard. Can she maintain this lead throughout the water legs? Grant, she's obviously known for her running, but can she hold on during the paddleboard and swim?
Well, she was up there a little in the opening board leg, which I guess is good news for her, but right behind her, of course, is Reen Corbett. She's a current Australian board champion, and she's a former world board paddling champion. I would say she'll close the gap to her fairly quickly. The good news, though, is that she could then work together with her and try and establish a bit more of a lead over the rest of the girls behind.
Well, she's got a few ocean women chasing her at the moment, but like we talked about earlier, drafting on these paddle boards is very easy, so maybe Kim Tennell's strategy is to allow Reen Corbett to come up so that she can then jump on her draft or her wash and save a little bit of energy likewise.
Well, if I was in her position, that's certainly what I'd be doing. I wouldn't be that confident of being able to paddle away from somebody as good as Reen. Interestingly, though, the other two girls that were just behind her have been able to stay behind her. Now it gets interesting, though, as they make their way towards the little waves that are here. You can't afford to be back, not even one board length.
Well, that's Kirsty Holmes right behind Reen, sitting in third position. But here we go, as we've seen so many times before, Reen Corbett coming over the face of this wave, Kim Tennell on it as well. This will provide a little break for them, perhaps the gap they need to work together.
Well, this is the classic example. Once again, there was one board length behind Reen. Now she's been able to pull up, get the first wave, and these three are now left one whole wavelength back. So that's taken the gap between them from virtually nothing to about 20 metres.
You're right, Grant, but now Kim Tennell and Reen Corbett are going to have to really push the pace to try to lengthen that gap so that they don't have anybody come from behind, as we see Reen throw her board over the whitewater and go onto her belly.
That's Kirsty Holmes still heading back into the water, and Lisa Lower behind her. There goes Carla Gilbert, and Simone Cotter's coming back up. Now, Simone won the race at Bali in a sprint finish with Reen Corbett to the line, so she's come back into contention now.
There's a shot of Anna Ballara, one of the early leaders in the first board leg. She's a bit back at the moment, but Kim Tennell coming around the turning buoy with Reen trying to stay on her wash as best she can.
You notice most of the girls tend to lie down as they come up to those turning markers, and it's actually a lot easier. It's a lot more stable, less chance of falling off, and at the same time, a little bit of a chance to rest the legs.
Simone Cotter tucked in right behind Foster's Team Australia, Carla Gilbert, and there's Lily Miller as well, Stacey Gartrell up in that pack. But here we have our two leaders, Reen Corbett, number 2 on the blackboard, right now trying to get over the face of this wave.
Yeah, it's a great technique she's got too. She reaches right out forward, her chest gets right down close to the board. That's so that she's got as much of her arms in the water as possible. Kim Tennell, on the other hand, is sitting back a little more. She's not getting quite as low down, so she won't have quite as much power.
There's a great shot from up above. Kim Tennell having to go all the way back on the board to keep from the nose going underwater. Reen Corbett lost that little lead she had, but Kim Tennell now up and running. This is where she has to attack.
Kirsty Holmes it was too that just about got over that wave, and I think the two girls came together and just closed her out there, so it was a little bad luck for her.
Now that's the second pack, the chase pack coming in right now. They'll jump off their board. Stacey Gartrell was in that group. Another shot of Anna Ballara from Team Europe. But our leader, Kim Tennell, now leading Reen Corbett by just a few meters.
Yeah, time to really start having a good think about the race, because we're coming down to the business end of it now. They're on the run. That's the transition to the last swim leg. So really it's going to be all out now. That's Annika Moore and Team Sweden we see there just coming in on the board, about to hit the run, and there is Carla Gilbert, Foster's Team Australia, still a little way back, and I thought she would have closed up a little by now, Craig.
I did too, Grant. I talked to her before this race, and she said she wasn't feeling the best she has. She won the race in Piha, but since then she's been a little sick, so she's just trying to stay in top form.
Yeah, she tends to go better in bigger seas too. She's very, very accomplished in the decent-sized waves, as we looked at Stacey Gartrell swim over our underwater camera there.
Well, Stacey will have to make her move here. You mentioned this is the last leg of the race. Kim Tennell, Foster's Team New Zealand, about to round the Ansett Australia buoy. She'll maintain this lead. It looks as though she's almost putting distance on Reen Corbett at this point.
Yeah, it's been a great swim by her so far. Gee, she's been consistent. You can see that nice style. She's got the legs going, and she's got quite a high rating still for so late in the race.
She just lifted her head there to take a look forward. We talked about sighting the course earlier. There's another great shot from our underwater camera, that of Reen Corbett. Kim Tennell now starting to dolphin or duck dive. That's what you do when the water's a little deeper than your waist, but you still want to get forward.
Lisa Lower pulls down a nice little wave with Reen Corbett there. So she's closed back up again too. Gee, this is going to be a close race. We're exactly halfway through the last swim leg now as we see Kim Tennell run around. She's got quite a handy little lead there, Craig, with only about 100 metres to swim.
And look at this wave. Carla Gilbert on the wave, Simone Cotter on the wave, Stacey Gartrell on the wave. So they're trying to make up as much ground as they can, and they're after this woman, Foster's Team New Zealand, Kim Tennell. She ducks under that wave, trying to get as much as she can with her running.
And of course, these girls out front, whilst they'll be reasonably comfortable where they are, they'll certainly be giving some serious thought to the pack behind. Stacey Gartrell's in there, and if anybody can pull them up to this pack here, to the leaders, it'll be Stacey Gartrell.
Another shot of Kim Tennell with Reen Corbett right behind her. Not much left in this race. Kim is just going to have to try to put in the big strokes here. We mentioned her rating earlier. She still is rating very well.
It looks like she's lifting it up and up. Only about 40 metres to swim now until she hits the beach. It's going to be about an 80-metre run then to the finish line. And Reen Corbett's moved away from her feet. She's decided she wants to take her own line in and try and close this gap.
She must have seen something that we didn't. But look at this. On the wave, Kim Tennell, Foster's Team New Zealand. This should solidify her victory. She's up and running, Grant. Look at this. She takes a look over her left shoulder. She sees that everyone else is swimming.
Well, she's slightly offline. She's going to have to run along the beach, but I think she's got enough lead. Only about 80 metres to run now. This is going to be a great moment for her. She's got victory in sight. She'll turn this corner to the right, and there's the finish arch.
Don't forget, Grant, Reen Corbett had a great finish in Bali, and I know she never likes to give up.
Oh, here she comes now. She's sprinting. Reen Corbett, number 2, chasing Kim Tennell from Team New Zealand, and Kim Tennell goes through to take first place, followed closely by Reen Corbett. And Reen Corbett's had a repeat finish of the one she had in Bali, where she came right up. Lisa Lower now across in 3rd position. That's been a good race by her too, not that far behind. Stacey Gartrell sprints in 4th position, just ahead of Simone Cotter, who won the last race in Bali. And next across the line is Carla Gilbert of Foster's Team Australia.
Kim Tennell, first ever international winner in the Oceanman Series. How does it feel?
I'm just so happy. It hasn't hit me yet, but like, you know, the cameras and everything, you know, I just want to thank Oceanman for giving us the opportunity to race here today, so I'm just happy.
You used that middle run leg really to attack and to set the stage for leading the rest of the race. Was that the goal going in?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a goal for me because I get stronger as the races go by, and, you know, a lot of the girls get tired, and I'm tired too, but, you know, it is my strong leg, so, you know, I've got no excuses.
Congratulations, you just made history.
Thanks very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Here's a look at the final women's results, both individual and team. Stay with us, the men's race is up next. When the international athletes gathered to compete in Uncle Toby's Oceanman Queensland, they stayed at the beautiful Novotel Twin Waters Resort. Located on the Sunshine Coast, competitors discovered there was plenty to do when they weren't focused on racing. Some athletes took time out to visit local schools where future ocean men had plenty of questions for their surf heroes. But the highlight was the pre-race parade where the athletes joined a motorcycle motorcade to meet and greet the enthusiastic crowds. And now it's time to get down to business as the ocean men prepare for the men's race. Clayton, besides the heat, the conditions here are very similar to Bali, which you just won.
Yeah, it's very flat here. There's only a little shorey, and it is the same, so it's going to be a similar race.
All right, good luck today.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's move on up the row here. We'll try to find Corey Hutchins, who's back for the first time after a long illness. Corey, if we could get a word from you. You just came off of a very long illness. You really have come back. You've got to be excited just to be in the lineup today.
Yeah, I'm just going to be going around with a big smile on my face, but after Kim's win there, I'm feeling a little bit more pressure than I was yesterday, but you know, I'll deal with that.
All right, go after it.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, behind him, real fast, Scotty, come on up here. Scott Reeves, another guy who's been sick, glandular fever. You missed the race in Bali, but a quick comeback. You're here again today. Team Australia, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel great. I'm just good to be back with the guys and competing again. I was a bit disappointed I'm missing out on the Bali race, so I'm good to be back and have a good time.
All right, go after it.
Thanks very much.
All right, last but not least, the legend Trevor Henney. Trev, series first position. You are looking great. You are a little off the pace in Bali, though. How do you feel going into today?
Well, I'm looking forward to the race, but it's really consistency is the key. I think a podium finish in a couple of rounds would be, you know, close to getting a win in the series. So it's just so competitive now, and to be leading with the 1st and an 8th just shows how competitive it is.
All right, good luck today.
Thanks, Umbro.
All right, gang, stick around. We'll have the men's race right after this. Here's the starting lineup for the men's race, both the individual and the international team competitors. Grant, the ocean men are off, and just like we saw the women do, the pace is going to be on right from the start.
This is unbelievable. I've never seen a race. Now, let's bear in mind, this is quite a long race. It's going to take him about 40 or 50 minutes to complete it. Look at the pace so far. Craig Hackett out in front, number 13 there, really having no bad luck so far.
We saw Phil Clayton there in second position. He's one of those young guns. He came through for the win in Bali.
One of the older guys who's up there unexpectedly at this point in the race is Trevor Hendy. It's very unusual for Trevor to be up so far near the lead in a run start like this.
You're right. You and I have both raced against him, but I think he knows that with this ocean kayak leg right at the start after this run, he has to be in a very good position.
I think that's going to be the critical thing. Look at them all now, Indian file, just like we saw with the women. They're all taking the easy way out here. The critical thing when they hit the kayak in these flat conditions and the speed of the kayak means that they'll get to that first turning buoy very quickly, and that's why they really want to be established out near the lead, because the guys in the middle of the pack are going to do it tough.
That's right, and now as they go up and grab those Oceanman kayaks, we'll see who can get through the surf line the quickest. This is ever so important as a transition. They need to throw those kayaks in front of them, jumping on, and as you see Corey Hutchins right there from Foster's Team New Zealand do what I just described. Oh, and look at this, Nathan Meyer, one of the true waves of the day. He has to jump off his ski and hold on to it.
That's incredibly bad luck. That's Trevor Hendy next to him, and he would have just got a nice little breakaway in these flat conditions, but bang, they got hit. The reason they get off is because they get hit so hard by the wave. If you get knocked off and lose your ski, of course, you've got to go back to the beach to retrieve it. It's a lot safer to jump off, hold on, and then get back on again in control.
And it's important to note that these Oceanman kayaks are 18 feet long and only about 16 inches wide, so it's like sitting on top of a balance beam.
Yeah, and there's a lot of quality up the front. Trevor Hendy in the center of the screen on the blue ski there. He's a World Ironman champion, former 5-times World Ironman, 5-times Australian Ironman champion. Nathan Meyer is on his inside. He's the current world champion. Guy Andrews it was next to him, who won the Uncle Toby Series in Australia 2 seasons ago. So there's a lot of quality out front.
And there's a great shot as we see all the competitors come around the buoy. You just see that pack that we talked of and how important it truly is to be up in front and setting the tone.
Michael King moving through the center of the screen there in the white cap. He's really putting in some power. Trevor Hendy tried out for the Olympic team in 1996 for the Australian kayak team, so that'll give you an idea of the caliber of the paddlers here in the kayak.
Michael King, always known for his kayak ability. There's a shot of Guy Andrews on the orange kayak next to him, and on the blue kayak in between the two is Trevor Hendy.
Yeah, Trevor's got himself, he's seen paddling just on the right side there to help him around that corner. Guy Andrews on the inside with a slight advantage, and look at the pack turning around there now. They're all clashing into each other. Very hard to keep your paddle in the water and get around cleanly.
Well, we talked about that positioning earlier. There's Scott Reeves, the current Australian champion, who just couldn't even move his paddle right there.
Yeah, Team Australia doing it tough, stuck in the middle of the pack. That's why that start is so important. No problems out the front, though, for Michael King. He's a local boy. He's from here at Mooloolaba Beach.
Well, Guy Andrews getting the free ride here. If you notice, he just sits right on that sidewash. It conserves about 20 to 30% of his energy, so he'll try to stay as close as he can to Michael King's kayak.
Yeah, it's very easy to do, too, in these flat conditions. You'll notice on some of the races, particularly Piha, where it was a little choppier and big swell, people weren't taking advantage of that as much, but here, where it's so dead flat, it's what you really want to be doing. And look at the gap they've opened up over this pack. That's Stephen Meredith on the left, Trevor Hendy on the blue kayak, and on the right, that is Jonathan Crowe on the red.
They're chasing our two leaders, but Michael King now with a little bit of a runner has made his break. He'll sit in first, but there's Darren Mercer, the current Australian champion, short course champion. He's now come through the field, a great kayak paddler. He'll now try to move up on that position.
Yes, and there's a shot of the good pack coming in there. Look how close together they are. There's Craig Hackett who's up now. Craig's a good swimmer, so he'll look for him to do something big. Scott Thompson, it is on the left of screen there, who's also a very good runner, so he'll make up. And there's young Stevie Pullen. Steve Pullen, as I said earlier, is good in the swim in particular, so he might be looking now to close the gap on Michael King, race leader.
And behind him, Darren Mercer. In third position, Guy Andrews, Simon Martin. There's Trevor Hendy coming through, former world champion, and current world champion Nathan Meyer right behind him.
Well, there certainly is a lot of quality in this field, and you can see Scott Thompson, he's dragging them along. He's a fast runner as they power their way down here for the transition onto the board. Once again, looking for a clean break through these small waves. They'll get up on the knees fairly quickly. Michael King in the centre of the picture now. He's going to be working on his own. And watch, I think it'll be Nathan Meyer just behind him. He's a former world board paddling champion as well. He'll try really hard to close that gap.
Well, he has closed that gap, Grant, and as we see them head out towards that first turning buoy, we see Michael King come around, and here's the rest of the field, all on their stomachs. It's a lot easier for them to turn due to the balance. These boards are very tippy, they're 10.5 feet long, and very unstable.
Yes, they are, and once again, while there's a bit of push and shove going on, which we can see plenty of there's Guy Andrews, it looks like. He's got his fin caught on the rope. Oh, that's terrible for Guy Andrews. Look, he's had to jump off. The rope must be wrapped right around the fin. There's a fin underneath the board to keep it going straight, and that's what must have caught. Oh, that's terrible news for Guy Andrews.
Grant, I've seen that happen only a couple times. He was in 4th position. He's probably dropped well back into the 20s. And here are our leaders, Michael King, and it looks like Jonathan Crowe in 2nd. And even with him is Darren Mercer. They'll try to get over the top of this wave. Darren did that so easily, just took a couple strokes, and now he's getting the free ride.
Yeah, and you'll see them just sit back here now, suck a bit of air in, and have an opportunity to get a bit of a break. And as they have a break, I've just got word that Trevor Hendy's having a break. In fact, he's withdrawn due to a foot injury. So Trevor Hendy, the series leader going into this race, has now pulled out. So that's bad news for Trevor Hendy. No such news, though, for Darren Mercer, still in the lead and going strong.
And here's our chasing pack. That was a brief shot of Dean Mercer, Darren's brother. Both of them extremely great at Ironman racing. They've been around for a number of years as we see Darren head through the surf line.
In fact, they're the only two brother combination winners of the Australian Short Course Championship as we watch Guy Andrews run in. That'll give you an idea of how much that hurt him when he got tangled up. But Darren and Dean both have won the Australian Championship 2 times, so that's rather an accomplished family.
Jonathan Crowe sitting on Darren's wash right now. He'd have to be very happy with his position at this point in the race.
Yeah, it's still fairly early, and I guess at this point they can really afford to sort of take a little bit of time but get into a bit of rhythm. But the pack behind is working hard and chasing, so you can't give it too much of a break.
Look at this, a wave now for our leaders. Jonathan Crowe is on it, Michael King is on it, Darren Mercer on it, and this, oh, look at Jonathan Crowe on the back of his board, a perfect example of how you need to go back and keep that nose from hitting the water. This will provide a great break for them. There's Dean Mercer and Steve Pullen, number 10 on the yellow board. They now are chasing that lead group.
And only one wave behind with them is Josh Blair. Look at this, 10 competitors on this wave. Nathan Meyer is there, the world Ironman champion, and really look at them go. This is it. This is where it's so tight. You can be 30 or 40 metres behind only, but you can be 20 or 30 positions back.
That's right, Grant, and there's our first 3 place getters coming through. But that next pack behind, I'll call it the attack pack. Those are the swimmers. It's Steve Pullen, Dean Mercer there we see leading, and Josh Blair. And right behind them is Brett Tyak. All 4 of them great swimmers. This is where they're going to have to make their move.
Behind them some quality though. Kane Houston, Stephen King, Guy Andrews, a former winner of the Uncle Toby's Australian Long Course Ironman circuit. So there's plenty of class behind them and chasing.
What's important, Grant, to note in the swim leg is that they don't have the luxury of a wash coming off either an Oceanman kayak or a paddleboard. It's a lot harder to get on the wash in the swim, and it makes a big difference if they can bridge that gap.
Yeah, really, in the swim you need to be virtually touching the heels of the swimmer in front of you to take advantage of the drag that's there, whereas in the kayak, or indeed on the board, there's a series of tiny little waves that extend back up to 20 or so metres behind that you can take advantage of. So really in the swim you do need to be a lot closer to get that drafting effect.
And there's a great shot from our helicopter showing these competitors just lining up, trying to get on the heels of the person in front of them. They'll try to ride that wash for as long as they can.
Yeah, usually you'll see the competitors quite content to sit back and take a bit of a rest from the wash. And who's that? That's Phil Clayton there, obviously in trouble. He looks like he's might be sick. I don't know if he's going to go on. It doesn't look like he's in great shape, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Bad news for Phil Clayton, winner of the last race in Bali.
Well, there's Darren Mercer out in front on the left, but look at the right of the screen. Joshua Blair and Dean Mercer, they're on the bottom of the screen now. They bridged that gap that we talked about, Grant, and they've moved to the front.
Yeah, what I was just about to say before we saw Clado withdraw, and he has in fact withdrawn from the race. And oh, look at all these guys down on the wave. What I was going to say is you can't afford to sit back on the run back to the beach. You need to move up to the leader so you've got a chance to catch a wave, and that's exactly what's happened. Josh Blair's come through well, as has Dean Mercer. So now we've got brothers Darren and Dean Mercer, along with Jonathan Crowe and Michael King, make up the top 5.
That's a tough front 5 to have to contend with, but I'd have to give the nod now to Joshua Blair and Dean Mercer. We're halfway through this first swim leg, but you saw how much ground they made up on the first half. Now they're up in the lead pack and they can attack even further.
Yeah, well, interestingly, after this swim, we'll be halfway through the race, but I think the gap that this 5 have established now over the rest of the field is probably almost enough to go on with it from here, and they'll start, at this point in the race, they're starting to think, okay, let's go hard. Look at Darren Mercer. He actually stopped, had a look around, and then moved across to get on someone's feet. You don't see that very often.
No, and Josh Blair around the buoy first, behind him Dean Mercer. Those two trying to use their swimming ability to make this break that we talked about. That's oh so important. Another person to watch, we just saw Kane Hoosner come around the buoy. He's another very strong swimmer along with Steve Pullen, so they're back in the pack as well.
Yeah, it's great to see those shots of them coming around the buoys because there's a fair bit of push and shove and kick and punch that goes around, especially in a tight pack.
Joshua Blair, who finished second in Bali, he was beaten by a little wave at the end. Phil Clayton, well, there you see him. He was our winner in Bali. It looks as though he's pulled out due to some sort of illness, but Joshua Blair now looking for a break, similar to what happened for Phil. Look at this wave. You see his rating just go up. He put the big kicks in, and he's got that wave.
Well, that was great surfing. You notice the way he picked up his rating, he kept his head down, and he really kicked hard with those feet. That was what gave him the wave over Dean Mercer that was right beside him, so he's now in, Dean Mercer's in second position. That was Steve Pullen, who's come through with these other swimmers on the next wave behind him.
What's going to be important for Joshua Blair is to how much of this lead he can hold on to through this middle run leg. They now have a long run leg to go, and so if he can continue to keep that lead going into the Oceanman kayak, he should do well.
And there's a great shot of Guy Andrews running out of the water, looking up there with a bit of a disillusioned look on his face. We saw him get caught up with that rope around the fin of his board earlier. Of course, that's going to put him in a terrible state mentally. He was looking for a good position in this race, 23rd in Piha, 4th in Bali, and I think he really wanted to win today. Tough to come back from that so early in the race.
Grant, we saw Joshua Blair being chased by the Mercer brothers. Now, will the Mercers work together as a team to try to get up there?
I think they probably will at this point in the race. They can make a difference working as a team. The interesting thing will be to see, though, if Dean, the younger brother, the short fella there in third position, just behind big brother Darren, can keep up, because Darren's been running so strongly so far in this race. I'm not quite sure that he'll be able to handle it on the beach. When he gets in the water, he'll be back very competitive.
Well, they are about to enter for the Oceanman kayak leg as we see a shot here. Joshua Blair there on the yellow ski in front. Dean Mercer on the blue ski in third position right now. We'll see, Grant, whether you were right and he can move to the front.
Well, Darren and Dean are going to probably, now that we see them side by side, they'll definitely work together. And there, in fact, look at that, Dean's gone right past Josh. So Josh, Dean Mercer, Darren Mercer, Josh Blair, as we look at Scotty Thompson, the oldest man in the field, still up there and doing well.
Dean Mercer now our leader. He has a great stroke, Grant, and you know from being in the Olympics on the kayak, you know a good stroke when you see it.
Yeah, Dean's really has been putting it in fairly solidly, and he's a shorter guy, and normally they don't work quite so well on the kayak. But look at the drive coming from his legs. You could actually see his knees moving up and down, so the power is coming from his heels right through. Here we can see it. This is a great shot from the chopper. Look at the leg drive, body twist, really using his entire body. And that's what's propelling this kayak through the water so nicely for Dean Mercer, our race leader.
And so this would change the complexion of the race. Josh Blair now in second, but Dean, as strong a swimmer as he is, so Josh will have to try and hang on Dean's wash as best he can.
Yeah, I think it's a little early to see somebody pull away. There's Dean Mercer. We're seeing him. He's out the lead. There's Darren. That's brother Darren right behind him. He's still getting assistance from the backwash of that ski, and Josh Blair sitting on the other easy position. So there are really two washes that you can sit on. One's immediately behind the competitor in front of you, and one's beside him. So Darren is riding Dean's wash. Josh is riding Darren's side wash.
Well, we brought up the point of the Mercers trying to work together, but it almost is like Darren is helping Josh stay in the race, because Josh is able to sit on his wash and therefore stay close to the race leader, Dean.
Yeah, he's definitely doing that. I'm sure it's not intentional. The two of them, if they had the chance to work together and establish a bit of a break on somebody else, then I think they'd do that. But at this point, really, it's probably still work together if we can, and when they get towards the last part of this last swim leg, they'll get really serious, and they won't be at all worried about each other. But Dean Mercer doing it well out front so far.
He looks very good, very poised as he heads in now. He'll jump off his kayak. He throws the paddle. His brother Darren right behind him.
And look how hard Darren's going. He's really sprinting in this transition. Look at him closing that gap. He knows that if they're going to work together, he's got to close the gap. But he goes right past him. What a fantastic run by Darren Mercer. He's not at all interested in waiting for little brother now.
It's funny that you mentioned Darren's transitions, because I was about to say that Dean's transitions are just as good as anyone out there, but we just saw how important it is to make your move.
Yeah, well, his in particular, Dean's have been very good from on those short transitions from the water straight back in, but Darren's been running so well as we look at the next 5 competitors coming in on a nice little wave there on the kayak.
Well, the Mercer brothers have made a good-sized break over Joshua Blair, who's sitting in third. That's Scott Rees of Foster Team Australia there. We mentioned earlier that he's back from a serious bout with glandular fever, so he just would be excited to be up there with a number of the leaders.
Yeah, he's very happy to be back in the race, but at this stage I think he'd be a little disappointed to be back that far. Jonathan Crowe punches through a nice little wave in close, as does Steve Pullen. That's Pullen now lying down. He'll pop up to his knees shortly as soon as he gets established.
Well, on his knees, and now going down to his belly, however, is Dean Mercer on the black board in front in the blue cap. He goes around his brother Darren right behind him. And look at that. Joshua Blair has made all that ground up. Joshua, an incredible board paddler. He was second in the race in Bali. He's looking for his first win on this World Oceanman circuit.
I tell you what's incredible, really, the caliber of these competitors is so tight that it's very unusual to see somebody close up so much ground so quick. Josh Blair's done it. Look at Michael King. That's him on the white trying to pull over this wave, and he does it. So they're all back together again now, the 4 of them. Dean Mercer furthest away from us, then Michael King, Joshua Blair and Darren Mercer.
We've talked about how important it is to catch these waves when they come. There aren't a lot out there today, and so for these front runners to catch something like that, it simply widens their gap over the rest of the field.
And of course it can work the other way. You can be out front and have the field come through from behind, so that's the other thing to watch out for in these sort of races too. The surf can either be a really good thing for you or a pretty bad one, but no real problems for these 4.
Well, the Mercer brothers again attacking the surf line as they head out now on the second part of this M-shaped course. Steve Pullen, look at him. We've talked about the transitions. He's absolutely sprinting through this.
Well, this is a long way into the race, and it's a fantastic transition. That's more the sort of thing you'll see in a short course race, but not one of these 45-minute Oceanman events. Usually at this point in the race they're just settling back down a little bit more and really feeling the pain, but obviously Steve Pullen is not, and he's chasing hard after this pack, led now by Darren Mercer, little brother Dean, and Josh Blair and Michael King it'll be right on their heels.
Well, Steve Pullen would now have to hope, as we see him come around the buoy, that he can get on Michael King's wash, who's in 4th position, to try to help him come up on these 3 right here. These 3, it almost, Grant, seems like they'll slow each other down because they're trying to use the same amount of water, whereas Stephen Pullen, as we see on the yellow board, has some clean water to paddle through.
Yeah, he'll be just looking ahead. He can see what he's got to do. The area where these guys out front are going to lose the most ground is actually when they're running into each other, turning around the marker buoys, because that's when they can't get their arms in the water, they can't paddle, and they're just slowing each other down. When they're in clear water and working together, they're actually a little faster. So it sort of works for you and against you in this situation.
We talked about waves making the difference. In the middle of your screen, Steve Pullen trying to come over the face of that. We've moved now to a shot of our leaders, the first 3. But yes, Steve Pullen, number 10 on the yellow board, does come through. Next to him, Michael King. He had missed the wave in front of him, but now had to settle for the wave behind.
Well, there it is, a classic illustration of the difference it can make. Michael King was right with these 3 guys, very close to the lead, missed the wave. They got ahead, and then Steve Pullen caught up from behind. So look at the difference that's made to him. What is that, 20 metres? He's 20 metres back because he just didn't get that one tiny wave.
And we talked about the surf knowledge of the older competitors, but as you saw, one of the young guns, Josh Blair, moving to the front on this run leg. Well, wait a minute. There's a shot of, it looks like Seiji Inuma from Team Japan. He's actually getting lapped now in the run portion. That's how far ahead our front runners are. And here's Guy Andrews still really struggling after that mistake he made early in the race.
I tell you what's been pretty courageous about Guy Andrews. You can see he's just there and working on his own, and when you're in clear water and there's no one around you, you've got no one to judge pace, you've got nobody to have a rest on. If there are 2 guys, you can alternate leads and get a bit of a rest on the wash. When you're on your own, you can't do that. So he's had to fight back from that setback early on his own. He's really doing well.
I started to talk about Josh Blair, one of the young guns, displaying some surf knowledge or some race knowledge of his own. He moved to the front, Grant, in that run transition, knowing that the swim leg was coming up, which is his strongest leg.
Yeah, and we're really getting down to the business end of the race too. This will be the last time you'll see them in the water, the last swim leg. They'll have that one little run halfway through it where they just run up around that transition marker and back. But now is the time. This is where one of them's going to try and make a break. So Jonathan Crowe comes around. He must be back in 5th or 6th position now out the front where the race is starting to be won or lost. It's Joshua Blair in first. Dean Mercer, that's him with that very high arm rating. Look how quickly he's moving his arms. He's in second, and Darren Mercer is in third.
There's a shot of Simon Martin. We haven't seen much of him in the number of these races we've had, but Joshua Blair trying to maintain that lead, using that kick as strong as he can to actually try to get Dean off of his wash.
I think Dean was pushing onto his, pushing down on his feet a bit, and he was saying, hey, listen, fella, just get your hands off my feet. I want to do my own thing here.
Well, Joshua, using this transition now, we talked about how important this is. This is the middle of the swim leg. We saw how close they were when they were swimming, but look at this. There's 10 to 15 meters now between them.
Yeah, I think that'll change a little as they wade back in the water. Of course, what happens is when you're swimming and the guy in front stands up and runs, obviously it opens out quickly. Now let's watch. Josh Blair is in and dolphin dives a couple of times under that wave. He'll come up after this and probably start swimming. Head down, away he goes. Dean was unable to close the gap, so that could have been the race break that he was looking for.
We just saw number 10, Steve Pullen, start to enter the water. He looked a little fatigued after that incredible burst of energy he put on in the board leg. But Grant, you said it. Look at Joshua Blair now. He's been able to keep that distance as they headed through the surf line. And I'd have to say, barring any sort of wave, this could turn out to be our race winner.
Well, this is where the breaks are won and lost. That little gap that he got there in that transition that we've been saying all along is so important, could well prove to be. Look at him there. Now he's got about 4 or 5 metres, so it's really starting to stretch out. And that's no mean feat either by Josh Blair, because behind him, Dean Mercer is a well-known good swimmer, as is Darren, who's back about another 4 metres behind him.
I think actually what happened, we've talked about the drag throughout this whole race. When you're swimming, the person behind you is actually pulling on you. You're sucking them along. And when he got that break, he was able to swim at his own speed, whereas Dean Mercer now just struggling to get back to his feet.
And it looks like as Josh Blair makes his way close to the wave area now, if he pulls onto this little one, the race will be all over for Dean Mercer. He's on it. This is it. This is fantastic stuff. That was a tough little wave to pick up.
Grant, this is just vindication. Josh Blair lost it on a wave in Bali, and he's won it on a wave here in Mooloolaba.
And very happy about it too. Look at him run through there now, through the Oceanman Arch. He'll turn right and head up to the Uncle Toby's finish line. He was narrowly beaten into second position in this race in Bali only a few weeks ago, but no problems today. Across the line in first position, Joshua Blair takes out round 3 of the World Oceanman Series. A hard race to hold off our second place getter, Dean Mercer, as he comes across the line. What a great race by him. And this man, his big brother Darren, has fought hard all the way to come through in third place. So to recap, Josh Blair, Dean Mercer and Darren Mercer.
Joshua, an incredible day. You were so close in Bali. Today you get vindication. You took out the win, and it was all your swimming.
That's right. It was so much more better. That last swim, all I thought about was last few weeks in Bali, and to get beaten by that wave over there and to win like that was unbelievable.
Congratulations to all the Oceanman athletes who competed in today's races. Here's a look at the final results, both individual and team. Thanks for watching. Join us next time as Oceanman travels to Laguna Beach in scenic Southern California. For everyone at Oceanman, I'm Craig Hummer.